is stored to the browser, and a user visits website A and B, where a resource from C is embedded. The website C can tell a user has visited A and B. This is a third-party cookie mechanism that makes tracking possible. And we are planning to prevent tracking by changing how the browser behaves along with the specifications that define them. The effort is called the privacy sandbox. The challenge here is that third-party cookie deprecation may break valid use cases, not just tracking. That's why we have been working to build privacy-preserving alternatives to third-party cookies. There are three key privacy principles to the design. First, browser state is partitioned by top-level site. This includes cookies and storages, but also all the other kinds of client state, including caches and network state. Secondly, unpartitioning of browser state can be enabled by browser mediation. In other words, access to cross-site user identity can be shepherded by browser APIs with specific transparency and control surfaces, including user prompts. Thirdly, any cross-site flow of information that does not involve user prompts is limited in terms of information entropy, so that it cannot enable web-scale cross-tracking. Speaking specifically of the identity federation area, we've done research to see what would be the actual impact on identity federation. And the good news is that it breaks in a small way, which allows us time to build alternatives without having to deal with a massive fire. The features we assume will be impacted are OpenID Connect front-channel logout, OpenID Connect session management, iframe-based background token renewal, and iframe-based login widgets. These are the APIs or use cases that are impacted by third-party cookie deprecation around identity federation. We are already restricting third-party cookies on 1% of Chrome users to facilitate testing. And the plan is to ramp this up to 100% in early 2025, subject to resolving any remaining concerns of the UK's Competition and Markets Authority. That's why it's important for those who build websites, including identity providers and relying parties, to start fixing foreseeable issues on their website. To see if your website is actually affected by third-party cookie deprecation, you can test by yourself. The best way to test for breakage is by setting the third-party cookie phase-out flag in Chrome. This simulates the state of Chrome after third-party cookie deprecation. And the phase-out flag causes Chrome to restrict third-party cookies and ensures that new features and mitigations are active. You can set the flag from the Chrome /flags page, and you can search for this flag. Or from the command line to help you with automated testing. As part of Privacy Sandbox, we've introduced new alternatives features to continue using authentication-related features in a privacy-preserving manner. All of these features are aiming to be a standard so that it will work not just on Chrome, but also on other browsers in the future. Okay, let me walk you through one by one. CHIPS, this is an acronym for Cookie Having Independent Partition State. It's a new proposal that partitions third-party cookies from other top-level domains so that websites can continue using third-party cookies, but unable to use it for tracking purposes. Storage access is a JavaScript API that allows iframes to request storage access permission when access would otherwise be denied by browser settings. Embeds with use cases that depend on loading cross-site resources that needs access to authenticated state can use the API to request access permission from the user as they need it. Related website sets is a web platform mechanism to help browsers understand the relationship between a collection of domains. Sites in a related website set can request storage access programmatically without requiring the user to accept a prompt. This is not a solution for all kinds of federation, but it can be a solution for single sign-on type of login in the same organization, for example. And finally, Fedcm, which I'll tell you more about shortly. But before doing so, another question, another quiz. I hope you have been paying attention to the previous question. Are these same site or cross site? w3c.github.io and fedidcg.github.io. Who think these are same site? Who think these are cross site? Very well. The answer is cross site. It's very tricky, right? Yeah, because GitHub.io is part is the same, right? But there's a thing called public suffix list that contains multiple tokens to count it as the top level domain. So other example is like .co.jp, .co.uk, things like that, right? So the public suffix list is manually maintained, and there are quite a few of them the browser considers as an effective TLD. In other words, eTLD. So in this case, eTLD plus 1 is considered a same site. Sorry, in this case, eTLD plus 1 is considered a site, and if they are the same, they are the same site. But in this case, since the part eTLD plus 1 are different, they are cross-site. Got it? Okay, let's move on. So Fedcm is a shorthand for Federated Credential Management API, and is a browser feature that is aiming to become a standard and allows users to sign in to websites using identity federation in a privacy-preserving manner. Because Fedcm is a web platform API, it's important that multiple browsers support it. The good news is Chrome, Edge, and other Chromium-based browsers already support Fedcm. Firefox is prototyping the functionality, and WebKit is supportive about the specification. WebKit, as you know, is an engine used by Safari. It's actively used by identity providers such as Google as part of the Google Identity Services. This is an example usage of Reddit, where they were able to make a transition for their Google Identity Services to Fedcm without much hassle. I mean, Google Identity Services is using Fedcm in this case. Gina is going to cover this topic later in this session. Let me show you how Fedcm looks today. A user lands on a web RP, in this case, Reddit. The Fedcm dialog is displayed at the top right corner on desktop, or at the bottom on the mobile. A premise here is that the user is already signed in to the identity. As soon as the user taps on the sign in button, the browser sees if the user is eligible to sign in. And if they are, the user is signed in. This is how Fedcm works right now. It's quite simple. The important aspect of Fedcm is that it's designed for better privacy. It is also aiming to mitigate general privacy concerns around identity federation for the long term as well. Fedcm is designed to be abstract enough to cover popular protocols such as OpenID Connect, OAuth, or SAML. Consider Fedcm a browser primitive for IDPs and RPs to build a better user experience and privacy for identity federation. To implement Fedcm, the IDP prepares a few endpoints that receive requests from the browser, and the RP implements just JavaScript. The basic philosophy of Fedcm is to put most of the work on the browser and IDP, simplifying deployment for RPs and simplifying the experience for users. Many JavaScript-based identity federation solutions are served by IDPs. This means it's easy for RPs to deploy. They don't have to maintain the code, and easy when an upgrade is needed, right? a good example is Google Identity Services, which are upgrading their SDK to use Fedcm, which for most developers relying on GIS didn't require any extra work. Gina is also covering this topic later in this session. And as I said, Fedcm is designed for privacy. Let me show you how. The RP invokes a JavaScript API called Credential Management API, which is the same API as WebAuthn, used for handling passkeys. The RP gives it information like the target IDP, their client ID, and so on. With that, the browser fetches information about the IDP and the user's account information so that it can display a Fedcm dialog for the user. At this point, even though the dialog is on the screen, the RP won't know which accounts the user owns on the IDP, or IDP doesn't know which RP the request is sent from, so that they are mutually invisible to each other until the moment that user agrees to sign in. So this is quite important. Finally, when the user agrees to sign in, the browser sends both the IDP session cookie and which origin the request is coming from, so that the IDP can verify it and return a token or an authorization code so that the user can sign in to the RP. Let me also mention that Fedcm depends on a mechanism called Login Status API. With the Login Status API, the IDP can send a signal to the browser every time a user is signed in or signed out from the IDP, so that the browser can remember the user's sign-in status, optimizing the number of queries sent to IDP. This is an additional requirement for keeping a better user privacy. So this is how Fedcm keeps better user privacy. Right, some people may already be wondering, what if authorization is required? What does Fedcm do with it? What are the potential expansions with Fedcm? Let me show you our roadmap. Earlier, I showed you the existing Fedcm flow. That is called the widget flow. It's handy for end users because a personalized dialog appears as soon as the user lands on the RP. But the downside of this is that the user needs to be signed in to the IDP in advance, which doesn't necessarily meet the expectations from all the IDPs. The button flow inlines IDP sign in before the user can sign in to the RP. And the user experience might look more familiar for many people. So this is button flow. Let me show you. Is it? Oh, it's not animating. So this is how it works. It opens up the sign-in dialog and sign in. So let me walk you through one by one. So when the user lands on the RP, there's a button instead of the widget, like a widget flow. And by clicking on that sign-in button, a pop-up window appears, which is rendered by the IDP. And the user can sign in by entering their username and the credential. It could be Passkey or anything. It depends on the IDP. And now the Fedcm dialog appears at the center of the browser window with a text explaining what information will be shared with the disclosed against the RP. If it looks good, the user can tap on Continue button to finish signing in. So this is called a button flow. It's already available on Chrome desktop behind a flag, or you can test it by signing up for an early trial so that your domain can be allowed listed to use this feature as an experiment in production environment. Another expectation that you might be wondering about Fedcm is authorization. Authorization, in this case, is a way for the user to grant the RP access to the server-side resources the IDP manages, right? So that the RP can send requests to the IDP on behalf of the user and process data, for example. Getting users permission to access personalized resources on the server is one of the fundamental features Identity Federation enables through a standard protocol like OAuth. supporting authorization with Fedcm has been long requested, and we are happy to tell you that we have just about to announce. Yeah, I'm actively working on this blog post. Identity providers can try this feature. Yeah, it's coming soon. So here's how the user experience would look like. After the user is, let me see, it's not unmuting. After the user is signed into the RP, a new pop-up window appears, open that asks the user for permissions to give the RP access to the resources. By accepting it, the RP will be able to have access to those resources. So pretty much looks like an ordinary OAuth flow, right? So yeah, please look forward to this to be announced soon. So another one, by looking at the widget flow demo, you might get an impression that Fedcm only supports a single IDP per RP, but it can be more than that. We are working to allow RPs to enumerate multiple IDPs using Fedcm so that a single widget or a dialog can accommodate them. The user will be able to see a list of available IDP accounts in a single view so that they can instantly recognize the account to pick up and proceed. Because it's Fedcm, the personalized list of accounts makes it easy for users to pick up an account to sign in with. So that is multiple IDPs. The registration API is something that a number of IDPs are excited about. It allows users to bring their own IDP and sign into the RP that supports it dynamically. So this is a really exciting feature. The user experience would be, first, the user signs into the IDP independently. There, the user can register the IDP to use for federation in the future. Then the user goes to the RP that supports this feature. The user sees the IDP account is available on the RP. Clicking the IDP account, the user is sent into the RP. So it's quite dynamic. A couple more as an exploration of Fedcm. We are looking into ways to improve the Fedcm widget. These mock-ups are examples of the widget placement as part of the URL bar instead of the URL RP's content area. Sorry. This helps the user navigate the RP page without an interfering floating widget. Another exploration is a Fedcm integration with form autofill. This mock-up shows a kind of similar approach as Passkey's conditional UI. But by integrating Fedcm with form autofill, users can sign in with identity federation along with verified information such as email or phone number provided by an IDP, just like they are filling out a form. Finally, you can find Fedcm learning resources by scanning this QR code on the screen, or just access Google/Fedcm. You can also subscribe to Fedcm developer newsletter, which you can find in this linked page. So with that, let me pass it over to Gina.
Thanks, Seiji. That was great. I'll now share with you all an overview of Sign In with Google's migration to the new Fedcm API on Chrome. Google's federated identity offering Sign In with Google has functionality that would have otherwise broke due to third-party cookie deprecation. The impacted functionality includes auto sign-in, one-tap, personalized button, and authorization. These flows are recognized by both users and relying parties as being critical in reducing sign-up and sign-in with a single tap, or even no tap in eligible scenarios. Without Fedcm, third-party cookie deprecation had potential for breaking tens of millions of daily sign-ins across the web. For some relying parties, Sign In with Google drives the majority of the authentication traffic to their websites. quick quiz, hopefully a little bit easier than AJ's. One-tap functionality, which is now included as part of Fedcm functionality, has shown to increase sign-up and sign-in conversion rates by what percent? A20, B40, C60, or D100? Feel free to shout out your answer. D, 100%. It is exciting. Many of our relying parties see conversion rate increases by 2 times and even more after implementing one-tap on their site. You can see our case studies where developers share some of their own metrics by looking at our developers.google.com. These conversion rate lifts are now able to be achieved by relying parties on the web by using Fedcm flows. Now, let's take a look at the Fedcm user experience for sign-in with Google users. You can see the new user flows shown on this slide for both one-tap and auto sign-in. Over half of sign-in with Google's one-tap flows are already going through the new Fedcm APIs. So if you're browsing the web on a Chrome browser, a tip for spotting Fedcm flows is looking for the domain name of the identity provider. So when you see sign in to X with google.com, you're looking at a Fedcm flow, versus if it says sign in with Google, that would be a GIS flow prior to Fedcm. So moving on to the relying party experience. And note throughout this presentation, I may use the word relying party and developer interchangeably just so I don't confuse anyone. I want to clarify that. For most relying parties, the migration occurs seamlessly through backwards compatible updates. No developer changes are needed, and we recommend developers to continue integrating directly with the Google sign-in library. However, some websites with custom integrations may require minor changes. These websites include embedded iframes for sign-in and websites with non-compliant CSP policies that may need to be updated. We've reached out to these developers and have given them ample time to complete changes and complete the migration so no flows are broken in the process. Overall, the sentiment from relying parties with existing sign-in with Google implementation has been neutral to positive. The neutral segment are a segment of developers that have been using sign-in with Google, they're very happy with sign-in with Google, and they really don't see any changes. So overall, that's a good thing, and they don't see much impact with this. The segment of developers that we have a positive sentiment from are developers that are proactively preparing for third-party cookie deprecation. They understand these changes and they're overall supportive and excited about the direction, and they see privacy and user benefits associated with these changes. Additional feedback we've received: some developers want to customize the one-tap prompts, some want to control the migration themselves, especially larger relying parties, and we granted them the ability to do so. And some have a conversion rate impact due to developers that rely heavily on auto sign-in. There's a change in the user gesture requirement associated with auto sign-in that has an initial change to conversion rates. Now, taking a step back, let's look at where we're at in the migration timeline. We launched the beta program for developers last August and have acquired some initial data from that. In April of this year, we began the migration for one-tap and auto sign-in features. As I mentioned, over half of traffic is now going through Fedcm flows. We are giving developers that require extra changes time to migrate, and we plan to migrate this traffic in July. And later this year, partners that are using the legacy Google sign-in library will be migrated to the Fedcm Auth-Z API. And finally, we're offering any developer, as I mentioned, a chance to temporarily disable Fedcm to control the migration themselves. Before the Chrome browser restricts third-party cookie deprecation, the use of Fedcm will be required for all developers. We're excited that Sign-In with Google now supports Fedcm on Chrome. This is a huge milestone. We're up and running live. To learn more about Fedcm and Sign-In with Google's implementation of it, you can visit our developer site at developers.google.com and check out the Google Sign-In tag on Stack Overflow. We also invite you to share any feedback with us at gis-fedcm-feedback@google.com. Next, I'm going to pivot this presentation a bit and talk about some best practices for identity implementations provided by Google. And before we jump into solutions, I want to begin by highlighting some of the user and developer pain points that are top of mind as we think about identity. As we all know here, just looking at the schedule of events for the week, identity is a complex space full of endless, challenging problems. Another quiz: how many online accounts does the average American have? A, 50, B, 100, C, 150, or D, 240? Shout out your answer. The answer is D, 240. Dashlane reported that the average American user has 240 online accounts that require a password. And I think this number was previously published as 150 in 2017, but has been growing with time, as it would. So building on this, let's start with user problems. Most people need to manage accounts across multiple apps, websites, devices, and platforms. It's difficult to keep all of these accounts and passwords straight, and even more challenging to have good account hygiene practices. Users face significant friction when creating accounts. A user may be asked to share a range of identity attributes, and even more recently, verified attributes, and often verify an email address. User privacy and transparency are top of mind during these data collection moments. We know how difficult it can be to remember usernames and passwords and log back into existing accounts. Users can easily forget these passwords and have to be sent through lengthy and cumbersome account recovery flows. And don't even get me started on signing back into apps on a new device. Now moving on to developers, we know that sign-up and sign-in journeys are among the most critical user journeys for your apps. It's important for developers to make these actions as seamless as possible while ensuring the highest bar for security. There are often trade-offs between these easy, seamless flows and the friction that comes with security, and we understand that it's critical to achieve the right balance between these two. Getting correct and complete contact information from your users can also be a challenge. This process often includes multiple steps to verify users' email address or other verification flows, often resulting in user churn. Problems such as duplicate account creation, account recovery, fraud, and complying with local regulation are also things that developers are dealing with. Next, I'll take you through how Google can help address some of these pain points. The first way to address many of these pain points is by reducing your reliance on passwords. We at Google have a vision to reduce the reliance on passwords for a safer user experience. Another quick quiz: what % of data breaches are linked to passwords? We went too hard this time. All right, in the data breach investigations report by Verizon, they stated that social engineering attacks are often very effective and extremely profitable for cyber criminals. 74% of all breaches include the human element, and 80% of breaches are linked to passwords. To reduce your reliance on passwords, we recommend replacing the usage of passwords with using passkeys and sign-in with Google. Sign-in with Google provides the lowest friction sign-up and sign-in experience, but may not solve for all use cases where passwords are used. Implementing passkeys gives you a seamless sign-in without relying on passwords for all of your user accounts. And together, they increase the convenience and security of sign-up and sign-in for your users. I'll now walk you through a quick overview of Passkey. I'll keep this short, as I know there are already many other sessions that are covering Passkey. With passkeys, users can sign into apps and websites using their device's screen lock. This provides a faster and more convenient sign-in experience, freeing your users from having to remember usernames and passwords for each app. In addition, passkeys are more secure than passwords. Passkeys are based on public key cryptography, and they reduce the risk of phishing attacks and make it more difficult for accounts to be compromised or breached. Passkeys are built on the WebAuthn standard and supported by all major platforms and operating systems. Passkeys can be synced between the user's devices by credential providers, such as Google Password Manager, so even if they lose their device, they won't lose access to their credentials. Now, let's discuss sign-in with Google. For friction-free account sign-up on all platforms, we recommend integrating with Sign-in with Google. Sign-in with Google works cross-platform on Android, iOS, and web, so you can be sure your users can access your app regardless of the device or service. You can meet your user wherever they are. Sign-in with Google extends the world-class security of your users' Google accounts to all of their online accounts. Users get safe, one-tap access to services online using their Google account. Additionally, developers get trusted account attributes from Google, such as a verified email address, to streamline account creation. This helps prevent the friction and drop-off associated with verifying an email address. This is all done through clear user consent, upholding strong principles to respect user privacy. Let's look at some results from a developer who has implemented Sign-in with Google. Indeed integrated Sign-in with Google and saw a dramatic increase in sign-in conversion. Today, over 50% of Indeed's users prefer to use Sign-in with Google over other types of authentication solutions due to its seamless and secure user flow. Furthermore, Indeed is able to capture verified user information with user consent, which enhances the ability to engage and communicate directly with customers. Key attributes that are even more valuable given the upcoming changes on the Chrome browser. To recap, Sign-in with Google and Passkeys are two solutions that will help you move toward a safer and smoother authentication that doesn't rely on passwords. I now want to give you an early preview of something I'm really excited that we're working on and exploring at Google. We have seen a successful initial launch of Passkey and are anticipating strong growth across the ecosystem in the future. At Google, we're working towards an approach where Sign-in with Google and Passkey can work seamlessly together. We ideally want to deliver the best of both worlds. This may look like a seamless way to share trusted identity attributes from the Google account, such as a verified email address, to remove user friction with the sign-up process. With the rise of wallet-based credentials, such as MDoc or VC, we're exploring this format for sharing credentials. This would provide privacy benefits and improve the interoperability of providers. Couple this with streamlined passkey creation that could be used for return sign-ins. This will allow for improved privacy benefits that can solve for all use cases where a password is used. I've included a very rough mock-up of what this could look like, so you can see in 2 steps you could request identity credentials and create a passkey for account creation and return sign-in. If this is something of interest to you, please follow up with me after to discuss participating in early explorations and early access program partnership opportunities. Now, let's explore 4 additional recommendations and best practices you can follow to implement a smooth and secure sign-in strategy. First, ensure your team is thinking cross-platform for your user experience. Identity works most seamlessly when it is consistent for your users, regardless of their platform of choice. Across all platforms you work with, we have Sign-in with Google SDKs to simplify the implementation for your development team. This includes Android Credentials Manager API, the new Federated Credential Management Web API we had just discussed, and a seamless experience on iOS. For passkeys, users who utilize Google Password Manager today can already sync their passkeys across Android devices and will soon be able to sync across Apple, Windows, or Chrome OS devices via Chrome. For developers with both apps and websites, you can reduce user friction by using the same passkey across surfaces. To do this, you should set up a relationship between your domains and apps. For Android apps, we recommend using digital asset links, and for iOS apps, we recommend using associated domains. And if you haven't already, ensure you migrate to the latest Sign-in with Google SDKs to provide your users with the most effective offerings. Second, ensure a high bar is met for security. At Google, we care about keeping the internet safe for all users. By using Sign On with Google, you're taking advantage of Google's security investments. If you want additional security enhancements to your Sign On with Google implementation, we recommend adding cross-account protection to your platform. With cross-account protection, Google can share security notifications about account changes, such as account disables and token revocations, with apps and services you've connected to your user's Google account. Cross-account protection is part of the OpenID Shared Signals and Events framework. You can benefit from Google's huge investment in preventing account takeovers and receive updates on the security of your user's account to keep your users safe online. Third, create flows in your user journeys that help with account management to reduce the creation of duplicate accounts for users. Our features, such as personalized button, one-tap, auto sign-in, are designed to prevent duplicate accounts by helping users quickly create a logged-in session using an existing credential. By using Credential Manager on Android and Fedcm on Chrome, the OS and browser will help users remember their last sign-in method and make it easier for users to return. On your backend platform, during account creation, you can use the Google account ID and email address within the ID token to check for existing accounts to avoid the creation of duplicate accounts. By using a combination of both Sign On with Google and passkeys, users can recover their accounts more easily, often without having to enter a username, password, or click a verification link. Last, fourth and final, ensure your implementation meets your organization's current and upcoming compliance requirements. As global standards and requirements evolve, Google builds our identity offerings with global compliance in mind. Our goal is to help you operate globally with minimal disruption. For example, on Chrome, as we discussed, we now have a solution for seamless sign-in flows without third-party cookies with the Fedcm API, all while minimizing disruption to developers. Additionally, Sign On with Google can customize your implementation for localization and accessibility needs. Millions of businesses, educational institutions, and nonprofit organizations manage the Google accounts of their members. Through workspace policies, Sign On with Google can provide verified organizational data for an account, unlocking valuable use cases such as identity and access management, community building, and subscription granting. For example, developers can use the domain to help users find their company's content or take advantage of a site license. I'm gonna pass this session back over to AG.
So before we close this session, let me talk about one more thing. Earlier, I talked about the risk of user tracking using third-party cookies, but first-party cookies will still remain an important mechanism for maintaining user sessions. One of the major risks with that is cookie theft, right? Where malicious actors can use stolen cookies containing your credentials to access your sensitive online accounts, like banking, social media, and email. Device-bound session credentials, or DBSC, is a web technology that aims to improve our online security and privacy by tying a user's online session to a specific device. This means that even if a session cookie is stolen by a malware, it becomes far more difficult for an attacker to use it on a different device. DBSC allows sites to keep using authentication cookies, but with much shorter lifetime, in the range of a few minutes. Before it expires, the session automatically refreshes the cookie after cryptographically providing to the server that the user is still on the same device. Chrome is developing this capability as a web standard in collaboration with popular identity providers and browser vendors to ensure it's practical to deploy on both small and complex sites like Google.com. We are prototyping it right now between Chrome on desktop and Google.com and plan to collect candidates for origin trials toward the end of 2024. So if you're interested in trying out DBSC, let me know after the session. Right, recap. So we've discussed about third-party cookie deprecation, Fedcm basics and its roadmap, Google's migration to Fedcm, reducing your reliance on passwords with identity implementations, best practices on identity implementation from Google, and finally DBSC. So that is all from us. Thank you for listening.